So I collect American history, and I collect it to preserve it, and I want to tell the whole story of American history, the good and the bad. Probably the best example is we have a lot of stuff from Patton, and he was an amazing guy. But we also have one letter from Patton where he is a monster, and I mean a monster, no better than the Nazis. And we all have these conflicts in us, some bigger than other. And we wanted to make sure that we showed both sides of Patton. That we don't make anybody into a hero without showing this is the heroic stuff they did, and this is the questionable or really bad stuff they did. Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book is up for auction. Now, this is not the book that he had when he died. This is a book from around the year 2000 that he lost. Somebody had it. They found it in the street of New York. It's been verified that it is his handwriting and it is his book. They picked it up and then just put it in a box and left it in a storage, unit. And ever since this Epstein thing has been going on, they're like, I got to find that book. I know it, but where did I put that book? They went through their storage unit and found it. Then they brought it to Alexander Historical Auctions, which is a really good auction house. And they put it up with unredacted names and numbers. You can't see it. You can go and, visit the book if you're interested in buying it and look through it. You can't take pictures of it or anything else. But the Black Book is for sale. They're saying it's going to go between $100,000 and $200,000. Now, my question is this just a passing big, but still like a passing blip? Like, I'm really not interested in the Lindbergh trial. Who cares?
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was a big thing at the time. Is this a big thing just at the time? And what would change that, I think, is was he, or will we ever find out, he was an operative for our government or other governments?
I don't know. That's kind of the rumor right now, right?
Yeah,
that he was CIA.
Yeah. What's your first thought on Epstein's book, having it? I mean, I'd love to have it just to read the names on the air.
Yeah.
You'd have to believe, though, if there was some, if it was like George Soros, like we'd already know about it, right? Like, think,
that page would be missing.
Right,
so
yeah, exactly.
Shockingly, all the S's are missing and the G's.
Right. So I kind of think that there's maybe not going to be a massive story in it, though it is an incredible...
Well, if we were considering really buying it, I would send somebody up to look through it and tell me, is there anything in it? I mean, worth... if it's like Squeaky Fromm, I don't really care.
It would be. I would care if Squeaky Fromm had done that. That would have been. That would be crazy.
It'd be nuts.
That's an interesting one. I mean, because is it just here's a guy who did some really terrible things, like Jeffrey Dahmer merchandise? You're not buying that.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. Like, I'm not buying Michael Jackson stuff.
Right.
I mean, I don't really.
Would you buy OJ stuff? Because that was pretty big.
Yeah.
If it was something
that wasn't just
really big,
flash in the pan. It was pretty big.
I have an O.J. Simpson baseball card. That's all I have.
A baseball card?
Or not baseball.
Wow, that's incredible. That is a huge story.
Shut up.
He played baseball.
Football card.
Yes. Because I think O.J. is on the level of Lindbergh. Right, historically.
Yeah, historically.
Like to us right now, obviously, it's a lot bigger because it happened in the 90s. But
right.
In 50 years, I don't know that it's...
The only thing that would be worth in that is somehow or another finding a way to capture the African-American response to O.J., setting him free because he was finally able to beat the man.
Right. And by the way, jurors from the trial have said that's what they did.
Yeah.
This is not Glenn making things up.
Right. And so if you could capture that, because we're having the opposite right now. People not looking at the facts of anything because they want somebody to win one way or another. And so that is something to happen with jurors. And so it would tell that story, but I don't know how to capture that.
And remember, the Epstein thing is tied into powerful people, even if you just, Prince Andrew, right? Like, I mean, there's certainly, I don't know that he's in that book per se, but I will say that my instinct is yes, you should bid on it, largely because I think one of the things you do at the museum and is part of your mission statement over there is to preserve history that will be erased. And man, the Epstein thing falls directly in that category. Like, we know about it right now, kind of. I don't think we know the whole story. And the powers that be will do everything they can to make sure that goes down some memory hole and we don't remember it, like the Lindbergh case.
Correct.
Right? Like that, they want that to go away. So actually preserving some of that history, I think, is a good use of resources. Of course, if there's nothing interesting in it, I suppose maybe that's not the case. But man, I don't know. It seems like we still don't know the story on that one.
But they'll let you see the whole thing before you buy it?
Yes. You can go up right now and make an appointment, and you can go up. I was thinking about sending Jason up there. And you can go up and make an appointment and see what's in it. You can't take a photograph of it, and no copies of it. But you can come back, and then he could tell me this is what's in it. These are the kinds of names that are in it that he could remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to send someone with a photographic memory up there.
I know. Do we have a listener with a photographic memory? That would be great.
I will say, it seems like if they're showing it to people, right, and we don't have any leakages on the actual story.
Well, they just announced it yesterday, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at some point, you'd think that the story would leak out that if there was something amazing in it.
Not necessarily, because if you are qualified to go see it, you're signed up to bid, you're a buyer. And if there's something great in it, you don't want anybody to know.
Until after you have
Correct.
it. Right. That's a good point.
They each vary in length from only a few lines to over 10 or 15 lines or more each. Each of the entries have several more names included. Additionally, 94 names bear black hand-applied check marks. 5 have been highlighted in yellow. All 5 names, including that of President Donald Trump, interesting that one is out, are well-recognized financial and industrial figures. The significance of the checked and highlighted names is unknown. The details included in the vast majority of the entries are most extensive. Epstein not only includes the name, address, and telephone number of his contact, but in most cases also adds other residential addresses and numbers, contact information, family members, secretaries, immediate employees, associates, cell phone numbers, and at least one instant, a contact's girlfriend's number. There's a good deal of information hinting at Epstein's sordid past, including the very first entry, contact information for the front desk, and 5 apartment numbers corresponding with telephone numbers at 301 East 66th Street. This address was home for many young models, girlfriends, pilots, and lawyers associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Book contains entries for former Ford models, CEO Kate Ford, as well as an entry for masseuse, which lists 24 women's names and numbers with pager numbers as well. The history of this criminal relic is fascinating. The mid-1990s musician living in Manhattan discovered the book lying on Fifth Avenue sidewalk in Midtown. She eventually put it in storage. It was not until 2020, while cleaning out her storage unit, that she realized it belonged to Jeffrey Epstein. She reached out to several media outlets, not this one, who failed to react. Assuming that the book was a copy, she listed it on eBay, where it was purchased by a graduate. How is that possible? How is this possible?
So who was it purchased by?
A graduate student in the Northeast who has possessed it ever since.
For how much? Do we know how much?
Nope, don't know.
Wow.
2004 Epstein Black Book was discovered by the FBI and used in legal proceedings, but this copy, which came to light after Epstein's death, was not considered as evidentiary importance at the time of its discovery. According to Business Insider, the 1,731 names contained in the 2 volumes together do not appear in the 2004 book. During its 6-month investigation, Business Insider journalists had respected forensic document examiners. Applied Forensics examined the book to determine its authenticity. After a researcher looked at the binding and the data within, the examiners determined there are indications or evidence to suggest The Q1 address book predated the online version of the address book and was in existence in the late 1990s. A copy of that report is available.
So there's 1,700 names? But we don't know why they're named.
Nope.
That's interesting.
What they released, and it's interesting again, they released Donald Trump and Alan Dershowitz as names in this.
Oh, my gosh. Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, Frederick Fekkai. Do you know who that is? Fekkai?
No.
Christy Hefner and Edward Kennedy.
Huh.
Frederick Fekkai, French hairstylist and entrepreneur.
Of course.
Well, who doesn't have a French hairstylist in their black book?
Makes a bunch of products, though. It seems like a big, has a big company making this stuff. It appears.
So what is your first thought?
Wow.
Yes or no? Should we
I'd say yes.
go look at it, or you would
I'd look
consider
at
buying it?
And then depending on
What
the
is
names.
its significance in history, long term?
What dirtbags we had in office, I guess. I mean, you're going to find out some things about people, right? Although it doesn't say why. Again, it doesn't say why they're in the book.
Right.
No.
I mean, we know the Alan Dershowitz thing. Like, we already know the person who accused him came out and said, maybe it wasn't him.
Yeah, he was in there because he's the attorney.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily going to have. You don't know if it's going to give you some major story that's going to change history. I will say though,
And we do also know that Donald Trump threw him out, right, of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, they had a falling out a long time ago
because he was, I guess trying to recruit some of the females. And Donald Trump said, "Get out, don't come back."
Yeah, no, they had definitely. The Trump thing is, I don't know. I think that's a complete disconnect to the Epstein story from long ago. But I will say that
otherwise it would have made political hay out of that.
Yeah, the
a
Clinton
long time
one is
ago.
much more, I think, significant.
Yeah.
And that one is. And the Gates, I think the Bill Gates one too. You have to. Some of his comments have been really weird about that.
Really weird.
Really weird.
So were his wife's.
I think Bill Gates has flown under the radar as one of, just a, weird, quirky guy for so long. I think he may end up being one of the true villains of our time.
I think that's
certainly
quite
a lot
possible.
of people believe that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the things that he wants to do on population control, and his connections there, his divorce from his wife, who was like, "Get away from Jeffrey Epstein. We know who he is," and he wouldn't get away from Jeffrey Epstein, and they divorced. That's kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, when he's occasionally been pressed on that, it has not gone well for Gates. I mean, we don't know what happened there, but something weird was going on.
Very. Yeah. And, he stole all the technology from Xerox in the first place anyway. So